Okay, Deanna, why don't you, thank you so much for being with us. And why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Deanna Russo. I am the owner and founder of Leverage Up. And what our company does is we work one on one with people and help them grow their networks on LinkedIn. So I grew my network on LinkedIn from 400 to 11,000, all doing things that I learned independently. And now what I do is share that knowledge. So we work with people, whether they're job seekers, business owners, sales professionals, and just help them understand the platform and get the most out of it.
That is incredible. So you said 400 to 11,000. That is
Yes.
that is
And
crazy.
yeah.
Yeah. And what made you decide on LinkedIn, if I may ask?
Well, it all started because of a job. I was in a sales position and they wanted me to use LinkedIn as the primary way to bring in business. And so I just started engaging a lot more. I'd actually been on the platform since 2008, but like a lot of people, I just thought it was like an online resume. And then when I started engaging more after I took this sales job and posting content, I really realized that it's a robust professional network and not enough people really understand what it's all about. And so my goal is to show them the differences. You can't just post content like you would on Facebook, and you can't just use 20 hashtags like you would on Instagram. So there's different things that kind of set it apart. But it's really awesome. Like LinkedIn is my go-to. It really is. I'm so happy that I learned all about it. And now I just kind of want to show other people how to get the most out of it.
Yeah, yeah, and they've really, from at least from a designer point of view, they've really been leveling up their game with the platform. I think it's
Yeah.
more light and airy now. It is also they've added stories, so it's
Yes.
becoming a really good platform for both job seekers, but as also with sales people. And so I'm really
Yes.
excited to have you on here.
Yeah. Awesome.
All right, so today we are going to be busting LinkedIn myths. And why
Yes.
don't you tell me what the top three are?
I would say in no particular order. They are LinkedIn is for job seekers, LinkedIn is for B2B, and LinkedIn is for suits and CEOs. Those are the big ones. And really for job seekers, it is a good go-to for job seekers, for recruiters, for hiring, and they even have a LinkedIn jobs portal. But to say that it's just for job seekers is wrong. And then the B2B side, there is a lot of B2B. But to say that it's just for B2B is also wrong because there's a lot of B2C businesses. And there are a lot of people who own their own business that there is so much competition on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter that LinkedIn allows them to carve their own path. And so, what I tell business owners is yes, there isn't a lot of representation for that particular business in some cases. But think of it as this is your niche. This you can have a robust um, platform right now because honestly, there are 760 million people on LinkedIn around the world. There's just such an awesome platform there, and I think it's untapped by a lot of people.
Could you say that number one more time? Because that's a crazy, I didn't know that there were that many people on LinkedIn. Yeah,
760 million.
yeah,
Yes.
that's incredible.
Yes. And
Uh,
there's just such a small percentage of people that are using it to its fullest potential. I mean, there's just such a small percentage of people who are posting content on there, for example. A lot of people have a LinkedIn profile, but then nothing happens with it. So it's
mhm.
kind of my goal to share how awesome it is when you actually do use it to its fullest potential.
Mhm. Yeah, and I love that it's awesome for both the job seekers, people who are trying to level up, people who are trying to become the suit, right? But
Yeah,
also for the entrepreneurs and whether you're B2B or B2C. So
right.
that's incredible. So can you expand a little bit on the job seeker, especially now with 2020, we're finishing off finally 2020,
Yeah.
and going into 2021. um, with some of the job seekers, and I know that they put that little icon over the profile of
Yeah.
people's profile image. Do you
Mhm.
have like the number one tip for those job seekers, or people just starting out to create their connections on LinkedIn?
So, really, for job seekers, it really has to do about your profile. You have to differentiate yourself from the masses using your profile. But then that's not the be all and end all either, because you have to apply for the job and you have to have a good resume. And it really is about branding yourself and saying what, like, for example, I was talking to someone this afternoon and I said, "This is a really nice picture, but what does that say about you? What is that? There has to be some sort of you connection to this really nice picture up at top." And same with the headline. You might have your skills and you might have those keywords in there, but what does it say about you? Why would people want to hire you? So it's really differentiating yourself from everybody else that can do similar things to what you can do. So,
Yeah, and I really want to just emphasize that you get to brand yourself on the platform because I think years ago I put on LinkedIn that I'm a glitter bomber of brands, and then I just left it there. And
mhm.
I don't need, has been so many people who have stalked me on LinkedIn and then come up to me and they're like, "You're the glitter bomber of brands. That's what I liked about your profile." I'm like, "That's great. You didn't look at the skills, but you
Yep,
look at the tagline." Yeah.
yep,
Yep.
yep.
Okay. So thank
And
you for,
I get the same thing for the purple squirrel magnet. I have people that ask me all the time, "What is it about the purple squirrel magnet? What's that whole deal?" And you know what? It was something that I learned when I was in the recruiting world, what a purple squirrel was, and I think I just became a magnet to it because it was just like, it was such a unique term that
mhm.
I did a video on it, and then people started, in networking groups started calling me purple squirrel magnet. So now it's one of my hashtags. But yes, it gets attention. The same
Yeah.
thing. You have to figure out what will get people's attention and
Mhm.
draw them in.
Mhm. Thank you. All right. So, what are the three most important parts? Yeah, and we touched on a few of them, but what are the three most important parts of that LinkedIn profile?
The three big ones that people look at first are the profile picture. And the profile picture for LinkedIn is not the same as what you would use on Facebook, on Instagram, or on Twitter. It really is the professional head and shoulders picture, because in the end, that's really what people use it for, is a professional networking platform, and that's what it is. So that's the first one. The second one is the headline, and really crafting a headline, whether you're a job seeker, whether you're a business owner, whether you're a sales professional, that isn't just a job title, but it speaks to you and it speaks to that brand. And then the third one, there's actually, it's very close because I did a poll recently to kind of rate one, two, and three, and profile was one, headline was two. The third one is either the banner photo right on top or that about section, because the about section really should be your story and tell the story of why you do what you do. And I think if people aren't getting much from the banner, and or they want to find out a little bit more, maybe the about section might be even a number four as they scroll down.
Mhm. Yeah, thank you for hitting on those, especially with the photo where there is a big difference between, you know, a photo that you would put on Instagram or Facebook
Yes.
versus a photo that a potential, whether it's a recruiter or it's a potential business connection, is going to be
Yes.
looking at. And when
Right.
requesting connections as well on LinkedIn, that photo, you see the photo, you see the name, and maybe that little, I think
Hmm.
you see the little headline or
Yep.
where they're working at. And that's all they see. And they could accept or deny your request to
Right.
connect just from
Right.
that. Hmm.
Right. So that it's super important that you set that real good first impression right off the
Hmm.
bat, or else you might not, that connection won't be accepted,
Yeah.
and vice versa too.
Yeah. Can we dive into that story, that description section?
Yeah.
What have you seen as like the number one mistake that people make on in that little profile area?
I think it all depends on who the person is and what their goal for LinkedIn is, because job seekers, will want to stack those skills and those keywords. Boom, 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 boom. But you don't get enough about them to come in from the about section. So there has to be some story, and skills are great. Skills are excellent. And that's what recruiters find you under when they're searching those skill sets. But they also have to learn about you too. And business owners, they sell their business in that about section. They sell what you get when you work, but they don't get enough about you, because really in the end it's you. They have to know you, they have to like you, and they have to trust you, and they can't get that when all they see is this is my business. I mean, they get that from your website. They need to get some bit of personality. One of my clients wrote up a really awesome about section, and he split it up between what he does and his love for Star Wars. And he's got so many Star Wars
Yeah.
connotations that I've used it multiple times. I'm showing people profiles because he knows how to do it, and
Mhm.
then he knows how to sell his business at the same time.
Yeah,
So
that is perfect because it is definitely a way to showcase who you are, and you attract people who you want to work with.
yeah,
As a business owner, when that copy is set up that way,
right.
especially when you can showcase both your personality and the transformation you can provide for clients, or what just
Yeah.
makes you passionate. Because I know in mine, and I honestly, for my profile, I thought nobody was looking at it, and I think I don't know if I still have it on there, but I've added that I like Latin towards the end of that section. I've added that I like
Mhm.
Latin dancing and, the world domination or whatever. And
Yeah.
people actually rate it.
Yes.
So they, and if, and you also have to think about it this way, kind of similar to a website where if people are put off by that, do you really want them reaching out? Do you really want them as a connection on LinkedIn?
Right.
Um,
Right.
and I mean, it's a professional network. You're not going to put something crazy on there, but
Right.
it's people read those. It's very important for people
Mhm.
to just gauge who you are.
Yes. And then
Yeah.
I've had clients that ask me, well, how much personal stuff can I put on here? Because I really want to talk about my family or whatever. But because it's a professional network, I would say the percentage should be either 70-30 or 80-20, because you really have to
Hmm.
be about your profession and about what you do and your professional goals.
Yeah.
And then if you're a mom of three, say it. I mean,
Yeah.
be honest and say it, but just don't get into their life stories.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Don't talk about how annoying they can be.
No.
Yeah, but yeah, it adds a little bit of humanity. Like it's like you're not a
Yes.
robot, and then
Right.
it depending on your target market too. So for me, I work with a lot of women business owners, that kind of stuff, and I'm also in a creative field. So I feel like I can put a little bit of a lightheartedness into my profile, whereas
Yeah.
maybe somebody else might have to switch it up a little bit because
Right.
they might be in a different industry. So knowing who you're targeting on LinkedIn is important.
Yes. That's super important.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
You got to keep that in the back of your head, who you're trying to
Yeah.
reach.
Yeah. All right. So, what is engagement when it comes to LinkedIn?
Ah, engagement is one of the things that a lot of people just don't understand. Because well, I can tell you what it's not. What it's not is liking and commenting on things in your feed. That is some sort of engagement, but the right engagement is engaging with the people that you want to be seen by. The job seekers want to be seen by recruiters. Job seekers want to be seen by hiring managers. Business owners want to be seen by their target audience, a center of influence that can help them with referrals. So you have to identify those people up front, and then you have to go into the avenues of LinkedIn where you're not going to see them in your feed. I've worked with people and using groups. We've worked with hashtags. So there's other avenues to go through that aren't exactly under your microscope.
Oh, okay, that's really interesting. So, so is it similar? So, how can we track that then? Because I know with websites, I can track analytics. With some of my peers, they can track social media, like
Yep.
Facebook clicks and all of that. How do you know you're on the right path with LinkedIn and engagement?
I would say that if you identify who you're trying to reach up front and then you go into those avenues, then it is up to you to keep your own record. Because I actually have clients that keep spreadsheets. These are the groups that I'm following. These are how many followers are part of it. And this is when I'm going to check in. So they actually, you have to be on top of things when it comes to that, because it isn't just like here or comment here.
Mhm.
But if you're actively engaging with those target audiences, even a half hour a week, that is something in addition to what else you're doing. If you're posting content or if you're reaching out to people during by direct message, so it's a good piece of the bigger pie that you should spend at least once a week doing.
Yeah. All right. So, all right, I'm trying to create some engagement. I'm trying to, get some connections. What do I post on LinkedIn? Because I know that it has to be different from what I'm posting on Facebook or Instagram, but how do I tailor it for that platform?
I think when it comes to content, it is, what value do you have to offer? One of the things when I started creating content in the staffing and recruiting world, I decided to make sure that all of my content had to do with things like interviews, things like hiring managers, things like what types of questions can you, if you're a business owner, what kind of problems can you help solve? And then that'll allow you to brainstorm some topics, because if there is 5 questions that your clients are always asking you, those are good content. That is awesome content, because it allows, because if your clients are asking, that means other people want to know too. And I actually have used client conversations as pivots into a content post. So it is really just figuring out how to make sure that you are showing your value and showing what you can do, and creating that buzz that will allow other people to kind of see and recognize your value, especially as a business owner, because you want them to do business with you. So you have to show them a little bit about what you do. And sometimes that opens up to the idea of giving stuff away for free. But it's giving out advice. But if you're bringing them in and they're interested in your content, then you might have a potential sale there. So
That's
you have
fair.
to weigh that balance.
So, and I've been following, somewhat stalking you on LinkedIn, and
Oh, great.
seeing what you post. But it's really great. So for me, it's always, and then same thing with my clients. They're like, okay, I want to get into LinkedIn, but is it the same thing where we can reshare things and then just put a comment on there? Where can I do video? How does video convert on LinkedIn? And
Yeah.
then usually I get a question on blogging on LinkedIn. So I don't know if we can touch on those.
hmm The video has changed. The algorithm has changed for video. When I started creating content on Halloween and in 2018, the video was significantly different than it is now as far as how it's treated. Right now, if it appears in your feed, you have to click into it and watch it for it to count as a view, as opposed to those text posts, even the text posts with images, where it counts as a view when it's appearing in the feed and there's nothing to click into. So that is a big difference in the video. I'm not saying that it can't be done and you can't create engagement and can't create a following by video, but you really have to have that opening graphic that draws people in, and tells them to click here without actually saying click here, because it really has to
Mhm.
be, it has to draw them in. Um, let's see. One of the other things is blogging, and it's just like posting. You're limited as far as the number of characters. I can't tell you the amount of times where I have posted something and then they say, okay, this is how many characters you're off. And then you just got to go back and edit it. But the articles on LinkedIn aren't used as much. So if you wanted to do a post and then continue it in an article, that's another way of getting people. And you could actually post saying, I just posted an article, and then put a link in the article right in the comments, because the articles don't come up as much in the feed as the posts do. So that's another way to do it. And the LinkedIn stories has been really good with people getting over to their content, because they can do a story with an image or a short video that says, go check out my post. And then like it gives you another way to publicize it.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm glad you touched on the stories part because I know that for myself or even some clients, creating a video just seems very daunting,
Mm-hmm.
versus stories, which are short clips. It seems a little bit more doable. But
Yes.
how can we wrap our minds around LinkedIn and how to utilize those stories in the best way, making sure that we're still in that professional realm, that professional network?
I really think that using it to drive people over to your content in your profile is the best way to do it. I have used LinkedIn stories for things like personal things, knowing that it's only going to be up there for 24 hours. If I'm watching a football game, then I'll say, oh, the Bills are on or whatever. Um, but there are a lot of different ways you can use it, a lot of different ways you can use it. And I think a lot of people at the beginning, when it was first launched, didn't know what to make of it. And now I think as you scroll through them and you see how everybody's using it, you can get ideas for best way to use it. And really, and it's another way to get your name out there, and make sure that you're branding yourself. So whereas a post is a post, it still comes up in people's feeds. Stories, if you don't have one of these, you're not going to see the stories yet. It is just on the phones. But if you're sitting there on your phone on the LinkedIn app and you're scrolling through, then you get people's attention, and then you can see how many people have viewed it, um, and who has viewed it. And then if you want to reach out and say, thank you so much for viewing the video or whatever, that's another way to open up that conversation.
Oh, that's great. That's great. And yeah, it's similar. I would assume that the stories are similar to kind of like the bio, like the quick snippet of like your image, you got your bio image, your title. It's just, again, you get to inject some personality in there because it is so
Yeah,
easy to find the stories on your phone.
right.
And yeah, I love that you can see who exactly saw it and then open up that conversation. Um,
Absolutely.
and then, so I did have a question back to maybe a slightly longer format of the video. I have seen some stats and they seem to conflict with each other on best practices of whether I upload a video to LinkedIn
Hmm.
or I share it from a different platform such as YouTube,
Hmm.
um, even if it's the
I
same
know
video.
people that do both. I actually, whenever I was doing videos, I would put them right on LinkedIn, because I found that that really helped. LinkedIn doesn't want you to go away from their site. So the videos that are taking place right on LinkedIn are going to get views. But that being said, I have actually and friends and acquaintances with a lot of people that use YouTube. But what they do is, and what I tell my clients is, linking it, don't link it inside the post, link it in the comments, because if you link it inside the post, it won't get as much traction as it
Mm.
would in the comments. So
Yeah,
there's a little tidbit. Yeah, you can do it
yeah.
both ways. Honestly, you can do it both ways. I find if you really want to be in the videos for the long haul, that YouTube might be the best way to go. And that way you've got one place to find them all a little easier than LinkedIn scrolling, scrolling,
Hmm.
scrolling, and then you got to find your content. But you can do it both ways.
Yeah. And can you do lives? I've heard that you can do lives I've just never caught anyone's live video and never attempted to do it
Yeah.
myself. But on LinkedIn, is that possible?
You can do lives.
Mhm.
There are pros and there are cons. The pros are you have a lot of people watching them because they appear in people's feeds. People like watching the lives, but you have to apply to be alive to get the live. And
Oh.
so whenever I see someone in my work who's gotten live, I always ask, how many times have you applied? Because there are people that applied multiple times. I've only applied once and maybe I'll do it again because I still have not gone live. But when I do, it'll be really cool and it'll be like,
Yeah,
woohoo. But I don't understand why they just didn't do what Facebook did and just let
exactly.
everyone have the ability to go live and why there's an application process. I don't know that yet.
That's interesting. I didn't know that there was an application process. Okay. All right. So has there been anything that really surprised you about LinkedIn? Something that was unexpected as you grew from, and again, I think it was 400 to 11,000 connections.
Yeah.
Anything that really surprised you about that?
I really think my biggest surprise has been just the amazing people around the world that I mean, because people can see the stats and people can see how fast I've grown my network. And then they can say, well, she's just in it for the numbers. But really, it is just about those amazing people. Yes, I grab your attention with that stat and the headline. But if you actually go into my content and then you see what type of person Deanna is, then you'll realize that I'm not just in it for the numbers. I have clients who are starting next week in Brazil, in Australia. I mean, like, if you would have asked me this at the beginning, I would have been like, yeah, that's not happening. But it's so interesting to have conversations with people worldwide, not just around the US, but just worldwide, and just even something as simple as the weather. When my when my client in Australia was telling me that it was like 110 degrees Fahrenheit, I looked out the window and I saw snow. I mean, like,
Mhm.
honestly, it's pretty cool. But yeah, and I'm getting really used to the time differential with those international people
Mhm.
too. You can't have calls at 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock in the afternoon, my time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I kind of
Mhm.
work it around their schedule.
Yeah. What has been one of your biggest pet peeves about whether it's LinkedIn or people on LinkedIn?
Okay, here we go. Cold call messages
Okay,
within
thank you.
20 seconds of connecting. Whether it is 20 seconds, whether it's in 20 minutes, whether it is in
Mhm.
an hour, give me a
Yep.
couple days to get to know you first before you try and sell me. LinkedIn Sales Navigator is an amazing tool, and a lot of people ask me about it. But honestly, more people are using it for the cold calls, and I guess you can get somewhat of people doing it that way, but you're not going to get the results that you really want unless you use it as a tool with everything else. That's one thing I tell my clients: go ahead and use it, but work with me first. I tell you everything else there is to know about LinkedIn, and then you can add that into that toolbox.
Yeah, I so many times that people and they look I mean, they could be very legitimate people,
Hmm.
but I look at their profile before accepting. They look like a real person. It's great. I hit accept, and usually, especially if they message me along with that invite, then I'm more likely to look at their profile.
Hmm.
And I'll, reply back with, "Hey, I saw that you were in Australia, or I saw that you're a developer. How is it going?" Something to start that conversation and not
Yeah,
feel like I'm being robotic and just accepting.
right.
And then they hit me up with a very generic sales
Yep.
chat, and I'm
Copy
like,
and paste.
That's not
Uh-huh.
unconnect."
Really, stop selling. Yeah, I've actually replied to them before, and I've said, if you really want to learn the right way to do LinkedIn, let me know.
Yeah,
I'll help you. I'm
exactly.
glad to help you.
Yeah. Oh, hopefully they take you up on that. But
Yes.
yeah, it's similar to I think the Facebook. My issue with Facebook is where people add you to different groups, and
Uh-huh.
they used to be able to just add you into the group, and then I was involved in way
Yes.
too many. So it's similar in that type of annoyance for me. But yeah, if
Hmm.
anyone's listening to this, please do not do that. Connect with
Don't.
us, but send us
Yes.
a message. And
Yes.
especially where if you connect with me, I don't know you, but you state where you heard of me, where you
Right.
met me. I used to go to so many
Yep.
networking events. I'm more likely to connect with you and continue that conversation, even if I've never really met you in person. But
Absolutely. Even
yeah.
if it's something that you get from someone's headline. Or I've
Mhm.
had people ask me about the purple squirrel magnet. I've had people say something about my about section or
Mhm.
something. Get something from that, even if it's like you went to the same school or you're
Mhm.
familiar with that town that they live in. Find something that you can relate to that person. before you sell. I
Yeah.
mean, because it's networking. It's all about the know, like, and trust. So get
Hmm.
to know them a little bit first.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. So, how can we work with you to leverage up? Maybe we can. How can we also get the same number of LinkedIn connections that you have? How do we work with you?
I really think that it's all about just sending me the personal message on LinkedIn or going to my website, finding out what it's all about. And then my goal actually for 2021 is to move from one-on-one coaching, which I'll be doing all along, and try to get in front of those groups. So if you happen to know of a group who would like to hear about LinkedIn, that's good for me because I like to help as many people as I can in one sitting. So there's a group, there's a company that where the senior leaders really like LinkedIn, or your manager really likes LinkedIn, wants to use it for your whole sales team. Those are the types of that's my 2021 is to get into at least 3 companies. At
Yeah.
least, and it's not even doing the presentation, but getting my foot in the door with
Hmm.
at least 3 companies.
Yeah. And you know what really would be amazing would be to have you. So, when I went to school, both high school and in high school, LinkedIn, I don't even know if it existed, but in college, I started they told us to open up a LinkedIn profile. I did it, and that was
Yes.
it, right? They said, mention that
Yes.
you go to this school. That's it. And so I think just for people coming out of school, it's such a powerful tool in order to get that internship, to get that job that they want, if
Right.
they knew how to utilize it. So I will also keep my eyes out for those types of opportunities for you because
Yeah,
again, yes.
absolutely. I honestly think that that college students and even high school students, the earlier that
Mhm,
you plan for your future, the more ready you're going to be when you get that diploma. So
mhm,
it's really this is just laying the groundwork in advance. So
mhm.
I think I'm all about it. I'm all about
Yeah.
accepting. In fact, I accept more connection requests from college students than I know anybody else does because who just because they're in college now doesn't mean that they're not going to have more plans when they get out of college and that I
Mhm.
can help them in any way.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
It's
absolutely.
so good. All right. And then is there a course in the horizon?
There's a master class. I'm going to be putting together a master class February 16th. And I will definitely, if you're following me or connected with me on LinkedIn, you'll find out all of the information as it gets closer.
Mhm.
And then I'm doing a few other presentations, group presentations before that. So definitely stay connected with me and you'll hear all about what I've got coming up.
Yeah, I love the idea of the master class. Yeah, and you can support so many more people with that than the
Yes.
one-on-one. Although I don't know,
Yes.
now I'm thinking about that one-on-one.
See, there you go.
And I
The
got to go
master
check my
class
profile.
the master class is really how much I can cram into 60 minutes and still have question and answer because I think that you might not have the time to devote to the one-on-one, or you want to do the one-on-one but you really don't know enough about what you'll be getting out of it. So what we can do is just give you kind of a sneak peek into everything that I teach in my one-on-ones, and it's in a 60-minute class. So
Yeah, I'm excited for that. All right.
nice.
So, yeah, so all your website links and your LinkedIn link they're going to be in the show notes. And one final question. Do you have a fun fact about yourself?
I do, and I alluded to it earlier. I love football. Love, 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 love football. And my favorite team is the Buffalo Bills, and they are having one of their best seasons ever. So I'm like, yeah, we're really in our glory here. Even though we're in the Columbus, Ohio area, our
Mhm.
heart is in Buffalo these days.
Yeah.
So yeah, my kids yesterday it was like an 8:15 game and the kids all wore their Buffalo gear all day long. I even found myself doing my morning workout with my earrings in. So
That's
yeah, we're pretty diehard.
yeah. I am not really that into sports, to the point where when I first came to Columbus,
Oh,
and I came from Pennsylvania, and
okay.
I'm an art student. I had no idea anything about sports, and I came here. I wasn't all going to OSU. I was going to CCAD, And I was
Okay.
walking along Short North and people were yelling, "Oh, you, OH." They were yelling OH. And I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I'm just going to keep walking. So that
That's
is,
so funny.
but I've come to appreciate the way the community comes together for, well, Columbus comes together for the sports, whether it's the Crew or OSU. It's just,
Yes.
it's a great way of just coming together and getting some food, and maybe, yeah,
Yes.
maybe in 2021 we'll do more of that getting together. But yeah,
That was
it's a
the
good.
one thing I could totally relate with when I moved here was how excited people got about their sports.
Hmm.
And so that was like a really big like that's awesome because that's the way we are in Buffalo too.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and I'll definitely have all the links in the show notes. And I'm just excited for the masterclass. I'm excited to see what's coming up for you, and make sure everyone who is listening to connect with her on LinkedIn. And yeah, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Yasmin. I appreciate it.
All right.